Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. I know right when you clicked on this video, you've got two questions. Number one, I talked about this with my Jack and Daxter shirt. You're like, where did you get this from? There's too many Sly Cooper fans out there who are like me, and literally anytime there's a modicum of brand new merchandise, you jump on it. I got this from Hot Topic. I couldn't believe we got a new Sly Cooper shirt in 2025, but I was not missing my chance to jump on it. The other question you may have is, what do you think of the Outer Worlds 2, Matty? Well, I appreciate you maybe asking that. Today, we're talking about the newly announced Xbox Summer Showcase, which also confirms the Outer Worlds 2 is going to be the follow-up developer direct video game. There was a lot of speculation among the Xbox community of what this game would be, particularly because Fable got delayed. After Fable got delayed, we were like, what's it going to be then? Are they even going to do it at all? There were great candidates thanks to the rumor mill, like Gears of War E-Day, but my prediction from the start was it's probably going to be the Outer Worlds 2. Now, whether the Outer Worlds 2 truly is in this slot because they have a ton to show you, or the Outer Worlds 2 is in this slot because the cards just kind of fell that way, we're unsure about. But based on what IGN First is saying in their initial coverage of this game, where we finally got 10 plus minutes of gameplay to just see the Outer Worlds 2, because Obsidian, as I'll talk about in a little bit, has been a little cagey with this game. They have a lot to show in the lead up to the developer direct, where I'm like, how much is there to this game if they're doing an IGN First for this month, and then we're also going to get the developer direct? Like, that kind of works a bit against what Xbox typically does, which is shrouds these games in mystery. Like, it's as if Starfield or Black Ops 6, imagine them getting these big blowouts of marketing and gameplay reveals ahead of the actual developer direct, where that's usually when they pull the lid off things. But nonetheless, we'll talk in full detail. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. If you're new here, you're into what's going on with Xbox, Obsidian, etc., consider subscribing. All right, let's start by jumping over to the Xbox Wire. Xbox Game Showcase, followed by the Outer Worlds 2 Direct, airs June 8th. Make some space on your calendar. The Xbox Game Showcase will be live streamed on Sunday, June 8th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time, following in the footsteps of the 2023 Starfield Direct and the 2024 Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Direct. This year, we will again have a double feature with Xbox Game Showcase immediately followed by the Outer Worlds 2 Direct. It all begins with our annual Xbox Game Showcase, bringing you a look at upcoming titles from across our first-party studios, in addition to incredible new titles from our third-party partners across the globe. This year, the show will be digital only. Our live stream will bring you everything you'll need to know about what's next for Xbox, no matter where in the world you're watching. This is actually a kind of significant change, because one thing that started to build optimism around Xbox when things were kind of falling out last year and the year before that was some of the actual public presence and confidence of the executives at Xbox who were there at, I think it was Summer Games Fest, and a lot of the press and content creators there were really reporting on that. And then the shows delivered, as I feel Xbox really has figured out their summer showcase, where, like, I'm excited about this just by the past, right? Like, they just have had consistent, to me, A+ shows between developer direct and their summer showcases, where I'm like, yeah, no doubt this is going to have a ton of amazing shit in it, and I cannot wait. But to go digital only is a little bit of a shift from the norm for Xbox. So I do wonder if there is anything involved in that sort of decision here. But nonetheless, the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video, because that's really it for the Xbox information, is what's going on with the Outer Worlds 2. If you head over to IGN, you'll see they posted 10 plus minutes of brand new gameplay for the Outer Worlds 2. Now, I mentioned at the start of this video, Obsidian's been a touch cagey about the game. We did get that surprise reveal trailer, and even more surprising was the confirmation of 2025, which this sort of locks that in a lot more. If you're dedicating the whole direct to this game, it seems like they are going to shoot for some sort of, I guess, holiday release window. Again, you have to remember, when this was first revealed and they committed 2025, we're like, Obsidian has Avowed coming at the top of the year, so you're going to actually, like, bookend the year with big RPGs? That's pretty crazy. But we actually don't know too much about the Outer Worlds 2 story at all. We don't know if there's returning characters. That's a big question that can be answered by either IGN First or the developer direct. We don't know when in the timeline this takes place. We don't know if it's the same galaxy. We don't know if the board is still here. We don't know what this actually is. And this is our first gut check on the Outer Worlds 2. It's still got that dark humor, no doubt. But one thing I noticed when watching this gameplay is it's a lot more stealth focused, which we'll talk about that, but it's also a lot more serious. The music is really serious. The things the cult in this scientific laboratory are saying is very serious. It has a heft to it. It's kind of brooding. It's very different in that stretch compared to the first Outer Worlds, which was very much just landing that dark comedy over and over again. Now, I don't know if this is just like what kind of impression Obsidian wanted to make, but that was the first standout difference to me. And so while those questions aren't answered, like, are we in the same galaxy? Is this going to be the same cast of characters? We did see one of the first companions in the game in Aza. I say all this because Secret Level came out, and like Secret Level, for example, was the one that teased that Pac-Man Metroidvania style game, right? Which was really cool. So it kind of brought a little bit of energy to that show in its brief life that you might get a feeler for things going on within upcoming projects from these teams or cool what-if stories. Obsidian did one for the Outer Worlds too, and it really told us nothing at all. So again, they've been very cagey about this, which is why I think there is just significance to this gameplay at all beyond like, oh, we finally get to see it. Now, IGN First did promise a few things that we're going to learn about in the coming weeks. One is a brand new flaw system. They said they're also going to get into character builds. They're going to talk about the wild weapons, which we know the science weapons in the Outer Worlds are hilarious. And also they talked about the scale of the game, which indicates that it is much bigger than the first one. After playing Avowed through, this actually doesn't surprise me as much. Avowed was a way bigger game than I think Obsidian even sold it as. Like, the way they kind of build it to us was like, yeah, it's the Outer Worlds again. And Outer Worlds was like a nice 30-hour RPG. You could see everything in that window of time. You ship it, great. Avowed, you could put up to like 60 or even 70 hours in, and it became one of Obsidian's biggest games for the production value it was trying to put forward, which was really surprising. So right away when I saw the trailer of the Outer Worlds 2 after playing Avowed and then seeing this gameplay and just the scale of the environments, the openness of it, I was like, oh, this game's going to be huge. Now, after playing Avowed, and many people know how I felt about Avowed, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I'm one of the advocates where I don't want Obsidian's games to get bigger. Yeah, like I'm not saying that means it's going to get worse, but there is a little bit of a correlation of scale does not equal good. But the Outer Worlds is definitely one of my favorite things Obsidian has done. So I'm very interested to see how this scales up. And again, how broad this universe is. Now, we saw a lot more stealth-focused gameplay here as well from the IGN First gameplay. And unfortunately, I think Redfall scarred me a little bit. When I see stealth abilities and you don't have like a takedown animation, it always gives me like the gamer ick is what I call it. It's like, ugh, why? Come on, why? Like, if stealth is going to be such a focus here, but it's just a little poke in the back and that's it. It's not as bad as Redfall where you just like elbowed someone in the kneecap and they just drop down. They're like, I'm dead now. At least here you actually like put a scythe in their back or something along those lines. But no takedown animations was a little bit disappointing. And also in that first stealth takedown, right away, the enemy notices that someone dropped in. I'm like, well, that kind of defeats the point of doing stealth things if all these enemies are going to see you right away. It is hub-based to some degree, it would seem, because you're wandering this sort of valley into a building, and then you look at a trapdoor, and there is this transitionary loading screen into a dungeon like you've kind of seen before in the Outer Worlds 1. So it does not seem like Obsidian's going for full, seamless, open world style content like I think some people were a bit worried about, which I'm at least happy to see. Maybe not the loading screens per se, but it seems like the structure will be very similar to Avowed. Anyway, within this facility, they're investigating a cult that has started going invisible due to a science experiment of some kind gone wrong. And what you'll notice is something that we did see in the trailer. Like, there was a part in the trailer where the character put down some visor and the entire environment around them changed. Turns out this is called the N-ray scanner, and it lets you see these invisible enemies, this cult that otherwise you can just hear, but you cannot see. And the other thing it lets you do is see through parts of the environment. So there was a minor, I wouldn't even call it a puzzle, just a bit of interaction where put the visor on, flipped a couple of switches. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known which switches to flip. Who knows what happens if they flip the wrong switches, but I could see some cool interactivity coming from this. I hope they kind of are taking a page out of the book of the discrepancy amplifier, which was in Murder on Eridanos, which is just one of my favorite DLC, by the way. I adore what they did with that in the Outer Worlds 1. If you have not played it, definitely check it out. The main thing it just let you do is kind of play detective, investigate the environment in a new way. And so it seems like the N-ray scanner is trying to do a little bit of that at the same time as also bringing in a little bit of combat reasoning for using the scanner. So I can get down with that, because one thing I did like about the Outer Worlds 1 is what I like about Bethesda Game Studios games. Like, I can pick up and interact with all these objects in the world, but now if there's like an extra layer to that, I think that's pretty cool. We also got to look at dialogue. It's going to function very similarly to the Outer Worlds 1, as I'm sure many of us expected. We did get a look at some skill check options. Some of them did seem to be that flavor text like we saw with, say, Avowed, where, hey, you have melee options here or gun options here of like, yeah, I'm going to take them all down. But it also showed that there were requirements not met for certain skill checks of dialogue. And it's not like what the Outer Worlds 1 or other RPGs do, where it kind of grays it out and it shows you what you could have said, but it's otherwise unavailable. It just says requirement not met, and so the dialogue's completely gone. And so it was like a medical option and a speech option that if you had the skills to use, maybe you'd have alternate ways to get through this interaction with this character. The character is this scientist that they actually show at the end of the 10 minutes of gameplay that you can kill this individual, which I thought was a good thing to confirm. Like, this was a core quest character. Killed them. They had a note on their body talking about the N-ray scanner. If you find this, go find the N-ray scanner. So basically, if you chose to kill this individual, you'd still be able to continue your quest. There was also a touch more intricate level design compared to what we found in the Outer Worlds 1. I think Avowed did a decent job of upgrading that. I'm hoping Outer Worlds 2 carries it even further forward. For example, you were crawling through like the pipes, the shafts of this building. I hope that these areas do have lots of options of approach, because especially if they're encouraging stealth as much as they are here in this gameplay, I think that's good to see, because again, Outer Worlds was just a lot of like hallways, doorways, big room, hallway, doorway, which I didn't care about. It was like a very much industrialized video game where you were in a lot of factories and laboratories and houses. Like, they would have this structure, but just to see a little bit more depth in the exploration is a great thing. The last thing I did notice that I wanted to point out is Aza and the scientists you interact with, everyone's wearing masks. Now, with Aza, what's interesting is you can actually see what she looks like in her companion icon in the bottom middle of the screen. Right away, the scientist does recognize her as a member of this cult. I don't know if she's like a rebelling member of this cult, or if like, no, this isn't our way, or I don't know what exactly is fully happening in the quest line, but I do wonder if they're hiding the facial animations, because a lot of people in the comments are pointing out there was some screen tearing in the gameplay. Are there technical concerns? That's one of those things that I will hold back on just a little bit, because I had those technical concerns with Avowed, and a lot of them were ironed out by the time I ended up reviewing the game. But overall, it looks like what I want, which is a bigger, prettier Outer Worlds. I do want to get a better feel. I mean, you can only tell so much from 10 minutes of gameplay. I do want to get a better feel of its scale. I want to get a better feel of its story, because I think that'll determine a lot of my excitement, because I adored a lot of the characters in the Outer Worlds. Like, what's the continuity, if at all, here? I also want to know about that new flaws system, because I thought the flaws in Outer Worlds 1 were great, but I never accepted them because the trade-off just didn't feel that good. And by seeing more, I'm just curious how big this game truly is, again, because I go back to the top of like, they're doing IGN first and the developer direct, and that's a lot. So we'll see, ladies and gentlemen, but nonetheless, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the Outer Worlds 2. So please fire away down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.